story.
Thank you. I was born in West Los Angeles in 1941. I was a family of 6. My mother and dad, myself, and 3 older brothers. And it really worked out well that I had all brothers because my dad ran a home for boys that were either orphaned or were from broken homes or were made wards of the court because they got into some kind of trouble. I was born on the grounds of Lark Ellen and basically grew up on the grounds of Lark Ellen until I was a senior in high school. My younger years were very unimportant. In 1950, we moved from West Los Angeles to the community of Azusa in the San Gabriel Valley. Again, it was to the Home for Boys, moved in its entirety. I was active in athletics and student government in high school. Played football, basketball, ran track, and also played baseball. I was a quarterback and a defensive back. I also was a point guard. Wasn't a high scorer, but I was one of the leading assist players when I was playing. In baseball, I was a shortstop and second baseman, and I ran the high and low hurdles in track. I was also class president freshman, sophomore, and junior year. And my senior year, I was student vice president, class valedictorian. So high school years were great years. I had a lot of good friends. Enjoyed playing sports, enjoyed getting an education. After high school, graduating in 1958, graduating actually on my birthday when I turned 17. It was the first time that I'd ever been in school on my birthday because it's always so late in June. Went on to go to Citrus Junior College. Graduated there in 1960 with an associate's degree. Went on to Cal State LA. There I had we could call it a rebel complex. After being there for a semester, and the second semester I started, and one day I just walked out. I was just tired of going to school. Stupid, at least not to withdraw. I just never went back. All the time going through high school and community college, I worked. I started out working in a beach department of a small market. I then went to work for the owner of the market. I then went to work for a men's clothing store called Rolls. I worked for him for about 8 years, going through last years of high school and through junior college and as I started college. I decided after I walked out of Cal State that what I really wanted to do was work for the YMCA. And so I got a job with Wilshire Branch YMCA, handling all of their youth programs. I worked there until the President of the United States thought I was a very important person and sent me a letter in December of 1965 asking me to be at the local induction center to be drafted in the United States Army in 1966. Went in the Army January the 16th. Spent 2 years in the Army. Did my basic training at Fort Bliss, Texas. I did my advanced AIT at Fort Gordon, Georgia. And then I was sent to Germany. Germany, I worked for, I worked in the communication center, handling all of their classified documents, acted as a courier. Spent some time on TDY, temporary duty in Vietnam, about 6 weeks worth. I was very glad to get out of there. I did not like it at all. It wasn't real safe. Went back to Germany, got promoted to Sergeant E5, went to work for the Command and Control Center, and there we were responsible for all communications, radio, telegraph, data, all of this for all of southern Germany. Got out of the Army in December of 1967. Went to work for a company called Hicon, which is a defense contractor, making high-altitude panoramic cameras. Became a contracts administrator for them. Enjoyed it, really liked it. Liked the negotiating and liked the legal aspects of it. But at that time, we wanted to have children. I had gotten married in 1964. And my wife and I had planned to have kids, but she had a miscarriage on our way back from Germany, probably from the air flight. And if I was going to have kids, I wanted to be able to have as much time with them as I could. So my mother was a teacher, and I decided that teaching was really where I needed to be. It would be where I'd get most satisfaction and where I could use the gifts that God gave me. Went to back to school. In fact, went to work for my dad. Went back to Cal State LA. Got my degree, and then got my teaching credential. And then went to work teaching at Edgewood High School in West Covina. I taught social sciences, plus I started off coaching freshman football and freshman basketball, and I was the assistant track coach. I was there until 1978 or 79, that school year. California passed what is known as Proposition 13, which limited the amount of money that school districts could raise on taxes. When that happened, 54 of us that taught in that district, most of us in the high school, most of us had 7, 8, 9 years of experience. We had tenure, but got laid off. And school districts throughout the state were laying people off. So I had to try and figure out what other kind of line of work could I do. A friend of mine was the vice president of sales of a company called Hydrorain, which made synthetic valves for the irrigation business. He kept trying to talk me into going to work for him, but I wasn't sure that's what I wanted to do until I ran out of all my savings and decided I really had to have a job. And so I went to work for him, covering Southern California, Arizona to begin with. Worked for them for about 3 years. Ended up covering Hawaii, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, basically the Southwest. Got an offer from a competitor, and basically for the next 15 years, I was in the irrigation business, either working for a manufacturer or for a distributor. The last 2 years, I actually worked for myself. I had made others a lot of money, and so I thought, well, I'll go to business by myself and make myself a lot of money. Only trouble is I went into business at the exact same time that mortgage interest rates were in double digits, 10 and 11%. And my business was based on small contractors doing residential irrigation. After trying to save the business and keep it going, thinking the interest rates would come down, after 2 years and quite honestly $250,000 thrown away, I closed the business. At that time, this was in December of 1994, I looked back at my life and said, where was I happiest? And it was back in teaching. So in 1995, I did a lot of substituting because at the time I closed my business, it was middle of the year. I then got a job at San Marino Unified School District, a 1-year contract for a teacher that was on sabbatical. Taught junior high history. Following year, I went to work for a high school in the high desert, Vasquez High School. I worked there from 1996 until 2007. There I taught social science. Also was head football coach, JV basketball coach, and for 2 years was head baseball coach. We were very successful there. I also have spent last 2 years I was teaching there. I actually coached at a Christian high school in Lancaster called Bethel Christian. Very fortunate to be there. We went to the quarterfinals in football. We went to the semifinals in basketball, small school. We actually had 23 boys in the entire school. So we've been very successful that year. Came to Colorado in 2007 without a job, but I did have some partial retirement out of California. Came here because it had been my goal all my life to have land so that I could have horses. I've been a cowboy all my life. Never had the real opportunity to live that lifestyle. And so Colorado, I felt, would give me that opportunity. As I say, I came here without a job. The day before I left California, I got a call from a charter school in Colorado Springs, Globe Charter, asking me if I was still looking for a teaching position. I said I was. They had a history position open, and so they invited me to an interview the day after I arrived in Colorado. Went to the interview. 5 minutes in the interview, they said, "You're interviewing for the wrong job." I said, "What do you mean, the wrong job?" They said, "Well, we just fired our principal, and based on your qualifications, that's the job we want you to interview for." So I then completed another hour of the interview, and most of it was about being an administrator. Came back to interview as principal. They told me to come back. They were interviewing 6. I was the first one to be interviewed. They said, we're going to pick 2 out of the 6 to come back to interview before the board. When I was walking down the stairs with the board president, she said, "We want you back next week at 9 o'clock. And yet they still had 5 people to interview. When I went back that following week, as she was walking me up the stairs, she said, "Oh, by the way, you're the only one we're interviewing." So I was sort of a lock-in for a principal in Globe Charter. A unique experience. Charter schools are unique because their board of directors are always changing. They're always made up of parents. And after 2 years of it and some conflicts I had with some members of a very diverse board, I got fired. And best thing that ever happened to me. Basically, I got fired because the chairman of the board didn't like the direction I was taking the school. I'm a Christian. I have been since I was 10. I had hired some Christian teachers, and once I got them a new school site, they decided I was no longer necessary. Again, best thing never happened. I took a 1-year sabbatical, sold my house in California to my son, made no money on it, but it gave me the opportunity to buy here in Colorado. Bought 5.5 acres in Elbert, in horse property, of a house that needed work, and I was looking forward to remodeling it. I spent a year remodeling that house. Then I decided it's time that I got back to work. The year prior, that summer, when I was out of work before I bought the house, I had applied at Pikes Peak Christian. They had a history job open. But I never heard a word. Of course, for an interview, nothing. So I didn't think about it because I wasn't worried. I was going to be working on a house. So, following year, when I decided it's better go back to work, I noticed that job was open again. So I applied. Well, after about 2 weeks, I still hadn't heard a word. So I simply decided that they may think I need too much money because Christian schools don't pay a lot. And so I went and sent the principal at that time, Matthew Johns, an email. And I said, Mr. Johns, I said, I have California retirement. I'm at an age I can collect Social Security. I don't need a lot of money. Well, within an hour, I had an interview. And with 3 hours, I had a job offer. And so I started here teaching history, world history, U.S. history, and civics and geography in 2010. Been here 3 years. Head football coach. Also was assistant baseball coach last year. This year's I'm head baseball coach. And I love every minute I'm here. These are my kids.
Hi, Mr. Miller. I'm your student.
Yes.
All
One of
right.
my good students.
So I'm just going to do some questions.
Okay.
You were born where?
West Los Angeles,
Okay.
close to the Pacific Ocean.
And you were born, your father owned a child...
He was the superintendent of a home for boys.
Is that still there?
No, it closed in 2001.
So your brothers didn't take it over? Or?
No, it was actually the board of directors was from the Los Angeles Lions Club, and there was changes in the type of kids that were being brought there. The state was trying to pay less money, and so when my dad retired, the Lions Club decided to close it.
All right. One more question. Oh, no, one more. So, you said you were in the military. Were you still in California, or did you move around before that?
No, I was still in California when I got drafted. And then I did my basic training, as I said, in Texas, and AIT in Georgia, and then I spent 18 months in Germany with some temporary duty in that other place.
What did you do whilst in the war?
I was trained to be a cryptographer and be somebody that coded and decoded messages. But basically, I spent most of it being in charge of security of classified documents.
Okay.
I made sure that they were protected and safe. I checked them in and out. I also acted as a courier, taking classified documents and delivering them to the recipient.
Was it like the KGB, where if you turned it wrong, it exploded?
No, but it was like you see in movies where I had a briefcase with handcuffed to my wrist.
Alright. So you didn't go into the battlefield at all?
Only on 2 occasions. When I was on temporary duty in Vietnam. Again, that was as a courier, but I also carried an AR-15 and a .45 sidearm.
Alright. And after you were done with the war, where did you move? Back in California?
Went back to California, to the community that I grew up in. By the way, that reminds me, I left something out. In 1976, I was elected to the city council of Glendora and spent 8 years on the city council. The last 2 as mayor of the community, and then spent 4 years on a local water board. So you try to use some of my government training out of college.
How long were you in school before you got drafted?
How long was I in school before what?
Sorry, how long were you in school before you quit? Was it just start college?
I'd gotten high school, 2 years of college, and I completed 1 semester at Cal State LA, so I had 2.5 years of college, and just got tired. I just didn't want to go to school anymore.
2.5 years, and
Yeah.
you were about 30?
No, let's see, I would have been 60, no, that's not age 60. 1960 when I graduated from, so it'd be 62, would have been like 63, so I would have been 22.
Alright, so that's a good age to be drafted in the Army, not too old.
Well, I actually got drafted when I was 24,
That's still
and I was married, and it was at a time before you would be deferred if you were married or had children. But with 56,000 being drafted in the month of January, the month that I was drafted in, all deferments had been done away with because of the amount of manpower we sent into Vietnam.
Alright. When was your first child born?
First child was born in 1971.
How many children do you have?
I have three. I have two boys. Darren's the oldest. He was born in 71, so he's 42. I have a son, Corey, who was born in 73. And he will be 40 this year. And then I have a daughter who was born in 76, who will be 37. I have 7 grandchildren.
Did your kids, boys, did they all end up like you? Were they all athletic?
All 3 kids are athletic.
Right.
I would venture to say in some areas they're better than I ever was. My daughter is the fastest of any of us when I was younger and when the boys were growing up. She used to go to, because I coached my kids in soccer and Little League, and she used to go to soccer practices and challenge my son's friends who were on the team to races, and she would beat them.
All right. So here's another question. How long were you in college for after you got back, and when did you
then when I got back, I finished up the 1.5 years, then another year for a master's degree. So 2.5 years after I got back from the military.
And you went into teaching and then the irrigation business.
Right, and then back into teaching.
Well, the main goal was to come to Colorado was to get horses?
Yep.
And
no, I haven't got them yet, but I'm working towards it.
When was the first moment you knew you wanted horses?
Oh, I was little. In fact, my parents used to play a dirty trick on me. I have loved horses for as long as I can remember. My parents liked to go on Sunday drives, and we'd all go out, my brothers and I. And I didn't know this until later, but they used to pay my brothers that if they saw a pony ride, they were to make sure that I was looking the other direction, because I would put up the loudest stink you've ever seen to force them to stop and let me ride the ponies. So it's been since I was 3 or 4.
All right. How is it living the dream of owning land and being able to
love
those kind of horses?
I've got half my fencing done. When I get the rest of the fencing done, then it's to build the barn, and once I've got that, then I get the horses. So they're within a year, 1.5 years away.
Has there been anything major in your health lately?
I've had several things major since I came to Colorado. In 2010, I had back surgery for a disc that had wedged itself between my sciatic nerve and my vertebrae. This last summer, or the year before that, I had a shoulder surgery for a torn rotator. And then last year, in June, they found that I had cancer in my lung on the bottom right side, and they removed that, and I'm cancer-free, and my last checkup last month, I'm still looking good.
All right, that's good. Pretty good shape for now.
I'm in great shape.
All right. Let's see. You went from all these different jobs, got tons of money. You could have been living in Florida for all you cared.
Yeah.
But you came for teaching. Who was the one person who really wanted you, led you to teaching?
My mother.
So would she be your hero?
She was my hero, my rock. She kept my dad's books at the home. And one time my dad accidentally slammed his finger into a car door and ended up with staph infection, and we almost lost him. And at that point, my oldest brother was starting college. And my mother said, if something was to happen to your father, what would I do? And so she decided that she was going to go back to college. She was from a family of 9.
Wow.
She was one of the middle children. Her father had died in the big flu epidemic in 1918. Her mother had moved the entire family to California all by herself. And as the kids would get out of high school, they'd go to work. So she never had the opportunity to go to college. So she decided that she would go back when my oldest brother did. So she went to the same community college I did, and graduated with a 4.0, and she kept keeping the books. She got a scholarship to Pomona College, got her master's from Pomona, did her student teaching at Cal Poly, at Mount San Antonio College, which is a community college nearby. And she taught for 20 years. At that time, California had a requirement that when you hit 65, you had to retire. Well, she had gotten 19 years in when she turned age 65. And the difference in terms of retirement income was like $400 a month. So the president of Mount Sac contacted our local representative in the state legislature, a gentleman by the name of Bill Lancaster, who later became a very good friend of mine when I was on the school board, or on the city council. And he got a special piece of legislation called the Laura Miller Teacher Education Act, passed by the state legislature, allowing her one more year so that she'd get her full 20-year retirement. Dynamic teacher, loved the kids, taught sociology, child care development, education. When she retired, to give you an idea what kind of person she was, they wanted her to put on a big fancy dinner for her. And she said no. She had a potluck. And she did it so that all of her students who wanted to come could come. And that's the kind of person and teacher she was. She was a tremendous prayer warrior. Even after she retired, she lived with us until her death. She would write between 25 and 50 notes a day to people from the church who were ill or just needed encouragement. She prayed on a list of about 100 every day. She was an amazing woman.
Modern day Mother Teresa.
Yeah, for me.
So
she was my hero and she's my rock.
So your mom had 9 brothers and sisters and lost her father. Your dad ran a school for boys, and you went off and did, by far,
Bunch of kids.
the most things I've ever heard someone do.
We were a family that has always been involved in one way or another with kids. My kids are involved with kids. My middle son has adopted a child. They have 3 of their own. My other son has 2 kids, and he coaches Little League in soccer. My daughter has 2 kids. Her son's an active athlete. Her husband is the head swim coach at Zeus Pacific University, and she spends a lot of time in helping him and support him with his swim team.
All right. I think we have 2 more questions. Oh yeah. If you were to go back when you decided you were a little tired of college and you were told everything that you would have done you're gonna do in your life, would you have believed it?
No way in the world. When I was in high school, we had a 9th grade class. You had to do a term paper on your career, what you wanted to do. I wanted to be a district attorney. I wanted to put people in jail. But God gifted me differently. And it took me leaving college, going in the military, coming back to really determine what those gifts are and how I can use them better. And that's what led me to education.
All right, this is the last question. If there was any thing unsaid, unasked, and needed to be filled in, would you be willing to do another Q&A?
Sure. Always.
And your name is?
Huh?
And what's your name?
My name is Doug Miller. I have a mouth, always open, and will answer any question you ask me honestly.